Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Videodiary. As we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we'll be vibing as per usual. Actually, to record this a little bit later than I usually would. I would have recorded it a little bit before 4, but then my OBS wasn't working and it wasn't capturing any sound from Animal Crossing. So I was like, that's not good. I suppose I should probably check that it actually is capturing it right now and it's not like double capturing it. So hold on, let me pause a second. Seems like it's all good, and if it's not good, then my apologies, I suppose, for this one episode. But anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 5:19 PM on Thursday, August 11th, 2022. We know about Flicks here today. Let me just check my advanced audio properties. Okay, that seems all good. It just wasn't working. I couldn't figure out why, because I was like, I haven't changed any of the settings, and it was working fine for Molly. It was just for the Elgato. My capture card I used to actually record Animal Crossing, and then it just wasn't working. Hello, Fawnhallow, what are you doing here? And then I just, unplugged everything from the Elgato and restarted, and then it just worked, Sometimes you just got to turn things off and on again, and it just works, which is, one of the more frustrating things, one of the more frustrating truths I think it is with electronics, So sometimes, if you're like me, you spend a long time, I suppose. It didn't take that long, it just, it took enough time that I ended up doing recording this video a little bit later. But yeah, it's one of the more frustrating things when dealing with electronics is the fact that you'll give it a little bit of an attempt and then you'll be like, oh, it's not working. And then you just like, and then you in the back of your mind you hear like the IT crowd or whatever, you maybe your own IT help desk or whatever, be like, have you tried turning it off and on again? And I'm like, no, of course that won't work. But then you do it anyway. Because you're not an idiot, it will probably will work. You just kind of like, it's always just like, I suppose it's because it's intensely unsatisfying to find out that the solution was you just need to turn it off and on again. Let me crack my window open. It's actually quite hot right now. Because it's sort of like, you're trying to figure out a puzzle. You're trying to find the solution to a puzzle, and it's like, oh, what's the solution? Oh, you just close, like, I don't know, turn the entire puzzle upside down and then solve a different puzzle. And it's like, oh, come on. I want an actual gratifying answer here. Wanted to learn something from it, but sometimes there are no learning opportunities. The only learning opportunity is that a general solution that works well for most things should probably be your first call of action. I just didn't expect it because I thought it was one of the settings has changed because I recently had disabled it because I was trying to figure something out, basically trying to get a website to capture my my audio properly and that sort of things. So I disabled the Elgato just to get it working, but I thought maybe it was to do with that, so that's why I thought it was a software problem. But hey, that's how things happen. Oh yeah, I should probably say this now before we get too stuck into this conversational pit. Is that I talked about working on a model, I suppose, like a D model, like a VTube model, I suppose it's now called, which is wild to think about because back when I suggested it is when VTubing was not really that big. I'm going to be honest. There was like the one VTuber I knew was Kazuna, who was like basically the first big one or whatever. And like it started gaining some popularity around that time, and I was like, oh, I'm interested in seeing if I can do this as well. And then I just never did it. Now I'm actually starting to do it, and you might see on Twitter, or if you're on my Discord, you might see a few teasers here and there as I go underway with the process. I'm not going to get your hopes up. I did not record my entire process of making, and I won't be recording my entire process of making this VTube model because a lot of it will just be me just trying to figure it out in the first place, and it's not going to be very interesting to watch, I don't think. Well, I mean, you might find it interesting, but it's going to be tedious to record is probably the better way to put it. Yeah, so you'll see teasers of that appearing in Discord on Twitter, wherever I decide to tease it if you want to see how it eventually gets made. Well, not how it eventually gets made, but progress I suppose I'm making. But side note. So I did what I promised. I said yesterday I would get started on it, and I got started on it a little bit. Yeah. So back to IT help desk. Turning it off and on again. It's a pretty generic thing to do, but you'd be surprised how often it works. Like I did electronics for both GCSE and A level. You might be like, what's electronics? It's basically working with circuits. For like I took it as a class that I studied. There's a lot of times that things just you're just like, why isn't it working? Oh, you kind of need to like unplug it from a power supply and replug again. But because it's something about like letting the capacitors drain because they might be holding residual charge or something. No, that's when you turn it off and turn it on again. It sort of like resets everything from a clean state. It's like, oh, let's try that all over again. Hopefully work out. Oh, oops, I pressed the wrong button. But the thing with holding the button down when it's like powered off or whatever is that especially with like computers when you don't when we don't turn on or whatever. I forget like quite the exact situation you want, but it's to do with letting go capacitors, I believe, discharge, because they might be holding a residual charge, which might be, I don't know, holding something in the wrong place. I'm not that like well versed on a microchip, like on that micro level of like how computers work. I'm very much more on the macro level, and I'm much more knowledgeable on how software works, I suppose, than necessarily the actual hardware. I'm not a computer engineer, after all. But yeah, it's almost surprising how often like turning things off and turning them back on again, you know, like works, like genuinely just works at like solving problems, up to an extent where you're just like, wow. It's almost miraculous. I mean, it's also a big reason why, like, you know, whenever you get IT help, it's one of the first things that, you know, the IT helpers, assistants, I don't really know what the right term is, would ask you to do, is to turn things off, turn things on again. Have you tried, you know, rebooting, replugging, instantiating, something like that? Because those are just generally things which, you know, a soft reset is, you know, generally what things need to actually get like realigned and start working again. And it's shocking how many times it works. I mean, it's always like a sort of IT joke that, like, that's what you have to do. It's like, oh, well, like, what do you have to be able to do to work in IT? You have to be able to tell people to turn things off and turn things on again, and you have to know how to update software, and that's about it. Obviously, that's, you know, quite, well, I'm not going to say it's necessarily facetious, and, you know, it depends on your job, I suppose, and it depends where you work, because certainly I'm sure there are IT help desks which are basically just that. You know, maybe you run basic software, maybe you work with a small company in the first place, and most of the time you're just, or you have like a large enough company that you have a budget where it's like something's not working, oh, you just replace it with a new, like a whole new hardware or software in the first place, or, you know, turning on things off and turning things on. The software you're using ain't that complicated or has a lot of self correcting features in it in the first place that turning things off and turning things on will work. But there certainly are IT people who do a far more complex job, you know, working out the systems, like account credentials, and, you know, maybe like the data to do with like your account details about things, making sure things are safe, cybersecurity, etc., etc. Like all of this stuff also kind of falls under the IT umbrella. So, you know, I think it's a bit rude to just be disparaging and be like, oh, that's all IT does, turn things off and turn things on again, because, you know, well, it's kind of rude to just be disparaging to, like, when you want like anything which people like genuinely put work in, right? You know, represent things by how they actually are rather than by your own assumptions of what you think they might be. I'm not saying that I'm accusing you necessarily of doing that. I mean, maybe you do, in which case I'm just sort of like, nah, I mean, it's not really like the end of the world or anything, but just sort of like keep things in an open mind, I suppose is how I describe it. But yeah, IT, I guess. Turning things off, turning things on again. The be-all, end-all, well, actually, not the be-all, end-all, you know, turn things off, turn things on again, or, if that doesn't work, percussive maintenance, where you just sort of hit things and hope things fall back in position. Although, as I understand it, percussive maintenance is technically kind of an actual thing, because at least certainly in a lot more older technologies, when things were not so like microchips, so things are much more like hard, larger wires or something. Sometimes, like, imagine your old CRT TV, if it wasn't displaying properly, sometimes it could just genuinely be one of the wires like slipped or something, or the connection is like a little bit faultier between something. And doing percussive maintenance just literally just sort of like bashing it a couple of times until it starts working, actually can sometimes realign things and sometimes actually make things genuinely work again. So actually could genuinely be a solution. Nowadays I think it's not as effective because like everything's on such a tiny micro scale anyway, but I don't think like those big vibrations, well, I think a lot of software and hardware is built in with the understanding to be able to resist like big shakes and things like that, because, you know, our technology's improved. Things are now like embedded onto things, which makes things make things much less susceptible to being moved through just good vibrations, like a Beach Boys song. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, it's just like update your software, isn't it? Those are like the free golden rules. If you think you're bad at like technology or computers or whatever, those are the free golden rules that you just need to know for why is XYZ not working. 1, okay. I guess step 0. Have you made sure you actually followed how to use it properly? I.e., like, is it plugged in? Did you actually press the correct button to turn it on? Is your power source on? Do you actually have electricity at the moment? They sound dumb to say out loud, but you would not be surprised at how many not how many people, but how easy it is to sort of like overlook those sort of things and be like, oh yeah, of course, what do you think I am, an idiot? Of course I plugged it in. And then, you know, you spend forever being like, why is it not working? And you look at it and be like, oh, I didn't plug it in. Happened when I first built my computer. Not quite like that. It was more like I was like, you know, what you're meant to do when you're building computers, you're meant to test things in parts. So, you know, like batch test things. So, you know, if in case one of your parts is broken, you'll be able to batch test it and understand and see if it that part is faulty, because you'll test only that parts and it won't work, and you'll be like, oh, okay, you know, something here is faulty, rather than trying to assemble the entire thing and have it not work. Well, when I built this computer, actually, I think it was it you? I think it was you. My computer I'm using at the moment, I did it just all in one fell swoop because I don't know. I was whatever age I was, and I just wanted to, and I was like, waste of time. No, not like I legitimately thought it was a waste of time. It's one of those things where I'm like, I know it's what I'm meant to do, but it's so much effort to do it that I don't want to do it. Because assembling it on like on the motherboard box, and then like having to like disassemble it and then re-put it back in my computer. Well, you don't have to disassemble it, but still, it's just a lot of effort. So, you know, I wasn't particularly keen on doing that. So I basically assembled everything all in one fell swoop. You know, plugged everything in and plugged in my computer, being like, really hope this works. And then like pressed the button, nothing happened. And then I spent not very long, about 5 minutes, basically like, no, why isn't it working? Is something faulty? What's it? Blah 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 blah. Turns out the entire time didn't flick the power switch on. And then, you know, I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Flicked the power switch on, worked perfectly fine. Everything turned on as it should have, and everything was smooth sailing. And I was like, yes. Very miraculous, I must say. But I suppose the benefit is I'm not someone who makes computers for a living, so I don't need consistency. I just need it to work about one time, I suppose. You know, you take that risk of not batch testing everything, because you're like, you know, it's 1% odds that there's a faulty part on my computer or something, and that batch testing will catch it. It was 99% odds that will just construct it fine. If you're making like 1,000 computers, you know, in a month or something, that was quite a lot. 1,000 computers in a year or something. Then yeah, you'll probably batch test, because, you know, there's still a decent amount that will get caught by your batch testing, and it probably doesn't add too much time. But when you're just making one, it's just like, are you feeling lucky, punk? That sort of thing. And the answer is yes. Anyway, so yeah, turning things off, turning things on. Fantastically good at solving things. Oh yeah, hold on. So step 0, make sure things are set up properly. Step 1, turn it off, turn it on again. Step 2, what's step 2? I legit forgot. Step 2, well, we don't really hit it, I suppose. Step 2, update your software. And then step 3, then you actually go to like a help desk and be like, I don't know what's going on. I suppose that. But then you start actually trying to sort of diagnose what's going wrong. Or you know, sometimes you can use a Windows diagnostics tool and hopefully it works. I wonder how it's made, because in my life I've seen the diagnostic tool work once, but it didn't work in the sense that it actually fixed a problem. It identified a problem. I can't remember what the problem was. It was on like one of my old computers. It was like one of the pre-built ones back in the Windows Vista days, when that was a new thing, and people did not think it sucked entirely at the moment, but you know. It was early on to Windows Vista's existence, is what I was trying to say. But yeah, like it was like a network problem or something. I can't remember what happened, but I actually identified a problem, but then it didn't fix it. So yeah, I mean, the diagnostic tools, I mean, I suppose that's kind of in the name, is a diagnostic tool. It's meant to only find out what's wrong. It's not meant to be like, here's how you fix it. It's meant to be like, this is the problem, and then hopefully you can fix it. But, you know, it's not always the case, I suppose. The case may be sometimes solving a problem is a lot easier said than done. And it's why we have IT help desk it's why we have any sort of help desk in the first place, is you can't really expect one person to know all the answers to something. Like, you know, people specialise in life, you know. That's why we have doctors, so we don't sort of like try and diagnose ourselves and try and prescribe medicine or treat ourselves how we think is best. We have people who study that for like 8 years of their life or something to be able to properly know what to do. And it's like why we have an IT help desk. I probably should have actually read that biscuit, because it seemed like an interesting story. I should try and make a conscious effort to actually read the conversations when they're the unique conversations. But oh well, it's why we have IT help desk, because, you know, you can't expect everyone to know everything about computers, you know, unless you use it all the time for your job. But a lot of people like use computers a decent amount for their job, but you only use them on like a base level. Like maybe you use Excel spreadsheets, maybe you use like some database, like some check-in system or something. You only really know how to use. You only really need to know how to use that software. You don't need to know how to be able to diagnose, I suppose, what happens to a computer when it goes completely wrong. That's why you hire people to do that job for you, because they know. you can learn the basics by yourself, but when it gets to advanced and expert knowledge, you can't be expected to know everything in that vicinity. So you hire people who do have that expert knowledge, I suppose, in that vicinity in the first place, and that kind of just applies to everything, doesn't it? There's very few people out there who probably are, you know, literal jack of all trades. You know, can do a little bit of everything. How jack of all trades do you think I am? How jack of all trades do I think I am? I don't know how jack of all trades you think I am. That's, I suppose, a question you can answer for yourself. I feel like I'm okay. You know, I think I'm above the population average. But, is that true? I don't know. You know, the more I think about it, the less true I think it is. I think I'm in the top 75% of jack of all tradesiness in the world, you know? I have a decent amount of, like, mathematical, technological, like, STEM sort of knowledge, of course. I have a decent amount of creative knowledge. As well. Practical knowledge, I think, is definitely where I sort of, like, fall back on. Do I know how to fix a car? Nope. Do I know how to slip a bike chain back on a bike? Kind of. I'd probably not be very good at it, though. Do I know how to, I don't know, install a light bulb? I can do that, at the very least. Can you rewire, like, a circuitry in your house? No, I can't really do that. We don't know. Wooden field sign? What? That's unbelievable. So yeah, I don't know where I was really going with this. IT help desk. What I was going to say about it. You know about IT Crowd? It's a UK show starring Richard Ayoade, Catherine Parkinson, and I don't know the other guy's name. I'm going to be honest off the top of my head. Let me just look it up for you. Hold on. IT Crowd. Catherine Parkinson, Richard Ayoade, Chris O'Dowd. That's it, and other people. Noel Fielding, I actually completely forgot was in it as well. I actually have only seen like 2 episodes of IT Crowd, but it's basically, I don't know what you describe it as, a sitcom, I suppose, relating around 2 or 3 IT workers in the IT help desk for a company who, you know, they're like on the basement. I remember when it was first released because I did watch the first episode of a pilot episode. I don't remember like anything about it, but I just remember it's Catherine Parkinson's character going down and moving into the basement and becoming part of a team or something. I don't remember. Didn't she also want to get shoes at some point? Now I can't say I know if that apparently we haven't spoken for ages. I'm sorry, Audie. I don't know if it's particularly indicative of what it actually is like working in an IT help desk. The IT Crowd, but obviously it's not. It's a situation comedy. It's meant to be dramatic. It's meant to be funny. It's meant to be over the top. But I don't know. Like from what I understand from IT Crowd, is a lot of it sort of ends up not really being about their IT work life, I suppose. Right? Apart from, have you tried turning it off and on again? Which is where, like, I mean, I suppose it's a bit of a British TV meme, if anything. Which I feel like it was said by Richard Ayoade, Moss, if I recall correctly. And yeah, I don't really know how indicative it is of actually working at an IT help desk. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If you work in IT, do illuminate, you know. But I don't know, IT comes in a lot of different flavours. It's a pretty large department, isn't it? You know, you can get like the sysadmins, you get the actual like IT call help desks, centre people, you get, I don't know, like cryptography researchers, hoping that P does not equal MP and trying to prove it. No, obviously that's not something I really do on a regular basis, so I hope not. Well, not, maybe not, I hope not. I mean, I guess actually definitively proving it would be cool to a certain extent. I don't know why I'm talking about this. There's literally none of you, well, not literally none of you, but it's a rather, what's the word, esoteric conversational thread. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other sort of like IT things, you know. Certainly back in my family, what? Like in my family, I tend to be more of a computer. But the one who uses computers and technology a little bit more. So sometimes I am a go-to to do things. I don't mind helping. You know, and my parents being like, "How do I do this?" I don't mind doing that. And whatnot. I won't say I am in my friend group. Maybe like in primary school I was, but that's not really saying much. But even then, I don't think I was necessarily. And then like in early secondary school, maybe a little bit, but I wouldn't say I was a go-to. Nowadays, I'm almost certainly not the computer to go-to person, mainly because I only have a okay surface knowledge, but you know, I don't work in IT or anything like that. And some of my friends have done much more cool and interesting computer things because they actually like it as like I suppose a passion. You know, I like computers and what they can do, but I'm more interested in what they can do than really the understandings of how their little tidbits and things work, you know. you know, some of my friends are really into computers, you know, like upgrading their computers, looking at all these things, you know, PCI, hard drives, and other things. I don't really know about that technology. I suppose I would turn to them if I particularly need it. But I also, you know, the sort of person to sort of like independent study and be like, hey, I want to know how this thing, I'm going to go learn it myself. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where I was going from this. I suppose you probably have quite a lot of woes if you're the IT person. Well, not if you're just the IT person. If you're the go-to person for something which you don't necessarily like doing, I suppose. But I feel like that gets not exasperated, at least sort of mocked. Not mocked a lot, but like memed. And I guess that's the general idea. Not memed, but like joked around about a lot online about the idea of basically being like, oh, you know, it's, you know, anytime anyone's got any sort of computer problem, they always call on me, and then, you know, if it's something goes wrong, they blame, you know, me rather than themselves for being like bad users or whatever. I don't know if that's really the experience that loads of people get, and if you do, then I apologise that, you know, your friend circle community that you're generously helping with your IT know-how is not being, you know, appreciative of it. But I don't really think that's the case, at least in our friend circle or whatnot. At least I don't get the impression that, you know, the go-to person, you know, I don't know if he determined himself as a go-to IT sort of person, but he, you know, I would determine him as a sort of go-to IT person. And he's probably who I'd turn to if I was like, man, I'm having a real, like, oh no, probably if like I wanted tech advice maybe or something, I go to him or something. I don't really get the impression that he hates it. You know, he loves technology. He loves seeing cool things and stuff like that. And, you know, he's just like a good person, so he probably doesn't mind helping. And, you know, and I'm sure but like everyone's got their own sort of like niche, or maybe they don't, in which case fair enough. Their own sort of niche in when it comes to actually like what sort of skill sets they bring to a friend group. I'm talking about it in such like a corporate way. It's really not how people talk, but like, you know what I mean, like, you know, you have own individual abilities and skills which other people might not necessarily know about, which hopefully your friends can rely on when it comes to it. You might be like, what's yours there, darling? I'm not really sure what mine might necessarily be. Like what is like specific knowledge to my domain. Certainly back in the day it used to be maths work, but now we've got a couple of people who are pretty good at maths. But at least like through secondary school, it was always academics being like, oh, what about this in electronics and physics and whatever, and being like, oh yeah, this is my answer, etc., etc. Of course, I'm not a teacher anymore, so or not anymore, I never was, I suppose. So that's not really sort of my domain anymore. Is it art? I don't know. We got a couple of, you know, pretty good artsy people in my friend circle. Maybe it's art. I don't really know. I guess I'm probably the only one who, you know, really does commissions or anything like that, but still, even that, like, my own expertise in it is not great because I'm mostly self-taught. Well, I am self-taught, I suppose. I mean, I guess most of my things are kind of like self-taught. I guess I'm just sort of like a generalist. Maybe I am a jack of all trades, you know. Do I have the best IT knowledge? No. But do I have a decent IT knowledge? Yeah. Do I have the best artistic knowledge necessarily? No. But do I have good artistic knowledge? Yeah. Do I have good... I don't know what else you'd say. And what even other facets are there? I'm not really sure. I suppose that's something I should, you know, determine for myself. Like, what do my friends ask for assistance on most of the time? I'm really sure. Off the top of my head. Maybe like moral support. No, maybe not moral support, but like talking through things. I guess it's not a bad thing. Being like a life coach. Where am I going? My brain has told me to run over here for a Nook Mile mission, but I don't know why I'm over here. I'm also feeling like... Is it me or is this OBS recording getting a bit choppy? Hold on a minute. Open up Task Manager. What's going on? Well, I have 14 tabs open in Firefox. What? Firefox, why do you have so many processes going on? What is going on? What if I close this one? 13. What if I do that? Why do I have so many processes? What if I close that one? Huh? That's only 12. Why do you need 11 processes for whatever's going on beforehand? What if I just close all of Firefox? Just close it completely. When I open it, a fresh thing, 9. It always starts off with 9 by default, I guess. Don't really know what's going on with that. I did close my YouTube. I hope those videos finish uploading. What did I record today? I recorded a little bit of Omori. You know, hasn't quite got to the stage where things are super kicking off again, I would say. Yeah, and I don't really know. Maybe I suppose that's just sort of wait and see. I suppose that's a question more easily answered by, you know, your friends rather than yourself necessarily. Unless you have a really core, like, unique, not personality trait, but skill set in your friend circle. Why do we only have IT help desks? We should have more help desks for more things, right? I guess that's, you know, we have it because it makes the most sense from a corporate standing. What am I doing, Nick mission-wise? I said what I'm doing, I never actually looked. Oh, this is why my brain running on autopilot is not doing anything. These are a really awkward one to do. I guess we'll just sort of clear our inventory and then we'll just sort of round up this episode here. I guess from an IT perspective, it makes most sense to... a corporate perspective makes most sense to have an IT help desk because that's, you know, technology as a whole, like, large facet of, you know, how businesses work in the first place. So being able to have some... But it's also, you know, quite a deep area with, you know... It's a bit much to expect people to be experts in it in the first place. It's a bit much to expect people to have more than sort of like basic understanding of it in the first place. That's kind of like why it's sort of like it's seen as something which should and definitely have people have like specialists, I suppose, in it working for your company. And I can't even think what else would you need to have like have a help desk for. I guess like people and relationships and that sort of thing, but then I guess like kind of that's what HR is. It's not really, I'm going to be honest. HR is more like the benefit is more for the company's sake rather than necessarily the individual. So I guess it's more like a well-being officer, something like that. I don't really know. Mental health resources, psychologist. Yeah, you know, you just need like why isn't there like a local company psychologist or something? I don't know. It's just the way that business works. It's just business. But anyway, I'm going to round off this episode here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscriptions, shares, I greatly appreciate it. Join me, Dear Darling Discord. Follow me on Twitter down below. Hope to see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.